Hello and welcome to Bloomberg Quint. My name is Vishwanath Nair and I'm joined by my colleague Soumit Sarkar. And we're trying to take you through what has happened at Jet Airways and how exactly did we reach here. Now, last evening, Jet Airways put out a statement to the stock exchanges saying that it is temporarily suspending all of its operations, domestic as well as international, while the airline has maintained that this stopping of operations is a temporary step. There are many questions in the market and by experts as to whether Jet Airways has the capability or whether the process that is being run at Jet Airways to resolve the stress is enough to bring it back into operations. Soumit, I'll toss to you.
So what led the company to shut down its operations? Because what I remember is that lenders had to infuse 1,500 crore rupees in the company because that was the fund required by the company to run its operations. So what prompted the lenders to not infuse these funds? Can you just take us through the timeline of what has happened with Jet Airways and what prompted the lenders to not infuse these funds in the company?
Right, Soumit. So before we get into the timeline, let's first look at this statement that the lenders have put out just this morning. Lenders led by State Bank of India said that according to them, according to the deliberations they've had, the best way forward for the survival of Jet Airways is to complete this bidding process that they had initiated. Now, this bidding process started on the 8th of April, and by the 12th of April, it got completed. There were some EOIs. We're still not sure how many of those EOIs are actually going to get converted into final bids, but the lenders seem to be reasonably hopeful that this bidding process will lead to some kind of investor coming in and money being pumped into Jet Airways so that it can continue its operations. Now, while the statement is with us, let's try and understand what has happened in Jet Airways till now. For that, let's go through this timeline. On the 25th of March, that was the date when Jet Airways put out a statement to the stock exchanges saying that lenders have approved a resolution plan for the company, which involves infusion of 1,500 crore worth of urgent debt support. This money was to be used to pay off employees as well as some of the vendors who were at that point in time still grounding planes. Apart from this 1,500 crore, the lenders had also decided that they will take over majority equity in the company. This equity would then be sold down to whoever is the investor that would come on board to turn around Jet Airways. Along with this, they were also appointing an interim management in the company to take care of the day-to-day activities so that the process of debt resolution does not impact the operations of the company. However, after that, on the 8th of April, SBI announced an entire sale process for Jet Airways. They did not take over that majority equity that they had originally promised. They had also not infused that 1,500 crore at that point in time. They invited expressions of interest from interested bidders. As I mentioned earlier, on the 12th of April, 6 bidders finally submitted their initial interest in the company. These 6 bidders included Etihad Airways, TPG Capital, Indigo Partners, Redcliffe Capital and Think Equity. It was a consortium. There was Naresh Goyal in the process as well, and NIIF who had said that they would participate in the bidding process later. However, once that 8th April period passed, then we had on the 15th of April, we saw Naresh Goyal backing out of the process. Along with Naresh Goyal, Redcliffe Capital and Think Equity, that consortium also pulled out of the process, and there were only 4 bidders left. But remember, even along this time, the lenders did not infuse that 1,500 crore debt support that they had originally promised. Why? Well, the lenders had cited their previous experience with Kingfisher Airlines. If you remember back in 2009, IDBI Bank had infused about 900 crore worth of debt into Kingfisher Airlines. Later on in 2017, the Central Bureau of Investigation picked out this specific case and started asking questions as to why IDBI Bank infused that money when the underlying operations of the company were still in trouble. Following this, many senior officials at IDBI Bank were also arrested. So because of this, the lenders were a little apprehensive in infusing some kind of debt support to Jet Airways at a time when its operations were under a lot of stress. Then on the 16th of April, the lenders shortlisted those 4 bidders, TPG Capital, Indigo Partners, NIIF, as well as Etihad Airways. All 4 were then issued bid documents so that they could conduct their due diligence in the company and then finally look for an investment into Jet Airways. That is where we stand at now. On the 10th of May is the date when all of these bidders are supposed to submit their final bid. Now, we're not sure how many of them will actually submit the bid, and EY does not bind them into actually submitting any kind of bids. But Soumit, let's try and understand, what is exactly left in Jet Airways now that the operations are finally stopped.
To start off with, what Jet Airways has is currently 16 planes that it owns. Now, of these 16 planes, how many of them are operational, we still don't know, but the last that we knew was the company was flying at least 7 aircrafts, but on its book, it has around 16 aircraft that it owns. Secondly, it has a 49% stake in Jet Privilege. Now, according to a couple of analysts, the value of this stake is close to 1300 to 1400 crore rupees. So this is the second most valued asset of Jet Airways on its book. Now, it also has a land in Bandra Kurla complex. Now, we cannot assign a value to this land asset because this land asset is developed by Godrej and the company only gets a share of its profit that it owns in this land. But still, if there are some pending dues that are there from Godrej, that will be a part of its asset on its book, which currently Jet Airways has. Now, on the liability side, if you see, it has around 8,500, a debt of over 8,500 crore rupees in its book that it owes to various financial institutions, which Vishwanath just mentioned. Along with that, it also has pending dues to various employees and vendors. Now, this amount is expected to be huge because the company has not been paying its employees and the vendors at least for the last 3 months. So these are the 5 things that Jet Airways currently has with itself.
Right, Samit, but 2019 has been a pretty nightmarish year as far as Jet Airways is concerned. As per your analysis, what exactly has the airline lost so far just since January?
So the main thing that the airline has lost its key premium slots in key airports. Now, one cannot assign a value to these slots because in India, if you see the slots are not, there's not a bidding process that there is there for slots. So one cannot assign a value to the slots. But according to industry experts, the slots of Jet Airways was one of the most valued asset for Jet Airways. Along with that, if you see the brand value, now the company had a good brand value being the private and the largest full service carrier in India. But because of this recent issues that we have seen with Jet Airways in 2019, this brand value of the company has taken a big hit. Now, along with this, at the start of the year, the company also had 108 leased aircraft. Now, all of these aircraft are not present with the company because of the non-payment of dues to the lessors. But getting these aircraft would not be a much of an issue for the company if it starts again. But the key point depends on when the company starts its operations again. Lastly, it has also lost its key employees, that is the pilots, engineers, and the ground staff to competitors. Now, according to various media reports, the company has lost most of its employees to its key competitors like Indigo and SpiceJet. So that's one of the important thing that Jet Airways has lost since the start of 2019, and that is because of the salary issues that we have been seeing with the employees. At least for the last 6 to 8 months, they have been delaying the salary dues for the employees, and that's the reason they have lost these employees to competitors as of now in 2019.
Right. So 108 lease aircrafts all been grounded. Key slots are being reallocated to other airlines. They've also
but
lost.
Just remember, these slots, there's a possibility that Jet Airways might get these slots, but it depends on when the company starts its operations.
Fair enough. They've also lost out on some of the brand value that they have generated over the last 25 years. And of course, employees are struggling because they've not been paid salaries for months. But it is important then, in the face of all of this, how exactly is Jet Airways supposed to find a bidder, and what exactly will be the value that this bidder will assign to the airline now that it has lost all of its key assets? To understand this, we spoke with Jitendra Bhargava, the former executive director at Air India, and this is what he had to say. He said that banks will likely take a haircut on the amount of debt they have, the debt exposure, as Somit explained, about 8,500 crore. Along with this, there is considerable value erosion that has happened in Jet Airways, which is also important because whoever is the new bidder that comes in will be looking at this as a key asset point. And according to Mr. Bhargava, the investors will now have a chance to bargain for a much better deal than what they would have before Jet Airways actually got grounded. While we wait to see whether the bidders actually come into the frame, whether they assign the value that the bankers are imagining or are currently expecting out of Jet Airways, we still have to look at when this bidding process gets over and who actually submits that final bid. We will keep tracking the story further, and to know more about Jet Airways and its current status, do keep watching Bloomberg Quint.